Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episodes 7 and 8. And yes, it is another fun and fabulous double recap. Heather and Whitney are both getting on my last good nerve. I am sick and tired of hearing Whitney whine about Heather not being there for her and then weaponizing her childhood every chance she gets. And Heather, I'm getting tired of your constant flip-flopping when it comes to your friendship with Jen and then dealing with Angie Harrington. But y'all, let's just jump right on into it because as you guys know, we don't have a minute to spare. So we start off episode 7 with everybody at Heather's auditions for her choir. So we see the contestants outside waiting for their chance to be called in to audition. And we have Angie Harrington and Whitney going over their dance routine. Now, I just want to say, Heather, I was embarrassed for you at the fact that you had these auditions and only 6 people showed up. Baby, you're on The Real Housewives. And I am sure that you could have put this on Instagram or put up some flyers around the city because for you to have that poor of a turnout, I would have been so embarrassed. I would say, yeah, you know what, guys, don't film this. We're going to reschedule these auditions until we have some more people. Because honestly and truthfully, the line should have been around the block. But anyhow, Shah is pissed to see Angie Harrington there. And she says, I don't really understand why Angie's even here. She's sitting up here with these dollar store costumes. I said, not the dollar store. But Angie and Whitney look silly. I was like, why are you doing a dance routine for a choir audition? Every time I see Angie Harrington, I just say, this woman wants to be famous so bad. I mean, she is so desperate to be in front of the camera. I get the impression that Angie Harrington is going to be like Marlo Hampton on Atlanta, where she's going to wait out production to finally be handed a snowflake. And another side note, have you guys been seeing the ratings for SLC? The ratings have not been good. They clocked in at 400,000 viewers. I said, if y'all want to be back for a season 4, you might need to get Mary on the phone. But again, I digress. So Jen is going on about how it feels like a slap in the face for Heather to invite Angie Harrington, knowing what Angie Harrington and her husband Chris did to her and her family with that fake account called Shah Exposed. So now we see Angie K and Dana talking outside, and they're both talking about Angie Harrington. Now we all remember Angie K. She's a friend of the show this season. She's the one who hosted Coach Shah's birthday party at her and her husband's house in the premiere episode. And then Dana is Heather's friend who also works for her at Beauty Lab. So here's where things go left. Dana and Angie K now walk over to talk to Whitney and Angie Harrington, and Angie K tells Angie Harrington to stop talking about Lisa. And she's like, I already know that you and your husband Chris are out here making fake accounts. Like, you need to stop. So you have Angie Harrington trying to deny these allegations. And I said, girl, are you serious? Just own up to what your husband did. There's no use in trying to deny anything now. Plus, your husband already admitted in the last episode that he did indeed make a fake account. So you look silly trying to cover for him when the truth is already out there. So now you have Whitney just standing there and she's super confused. She's like, wait a minute. You're telling me that Chris, a grown-ass man, made a fake page to troll Lisa? Like, are you serious? Then she says that she feels really gross and silly wearing these matching costumes with Angie Harrington for this audition. Now, I was thinking, Whitney, I'm confused that you decided to do this audition with Angie Harrington in the first place because you had called her a liar a few episodes ago. So now we have Shah pull up to the conversation, and every time Jen gets involved, it's about to go left real fast. Because one thing about it, Jen is going to start screaming at the top of her lungs when she's upset. So she's like, Angie Harrington, you are so full of it. You know good and well what your husband was up to. Like, just own it. So not only is Angie Harrington trying to deny it, but then she says, well, go talk to Chris about it. And I'm thinking, no, that's the wrong response. You need to own up to it, Angie, and just say, you know what? My husband was dead wrong for that, and we both owe you an apology. Period, point blank. There's no other way to spin it. So at this point, Jen starts screaming, and she's like, Angie, at the end of the day, you and Chris are married, and when you get married, you become one. Now, Angie Harrington really thought that she ate with this, because she was like, oh, okay, well, if you want to go there, then does that mean that Coach Shah is responsible for what you did, what you're being accused of? Now, you already know that Jen was set off hearing Angie say that. So she's going off about how she's innocent, and I'm thinking, now, Jen, we all know the truth, and at this point, we are all waiting to find out how much time you'll be serving. It's very bizarre to me to watch her this season declare her innocence, knowing that the truth has come out and she has already admitted in front of the judge that she indeed knew what she was doing and that what she was doing was wrong. So it's just very bizarre every time we hear her talk about how innocent she is. So the argument has gotten so bad at this point that now Heather comes out and she immediately is asking Jen what's going on. Now, Heather, I'm about to get on you because you tried it. When Angie Harrington asked you, do you know my husband to be a bad guy? And when you said no, he took accountability for what he did. And I was thinking, but that does not excuse the pain and the hurt that he's caused to two people in this group. You can't use, well, he owned up to it as a way to not apologize and as a way to brush past someone else's feelings. It was just so weird how Heather dismissed Jen's feelings and just immediately sided with Angie Harrington, knowing that Angie and her husband are dead ass wrong. And Heather, it really blew me because you're the first one talking about how great of a friend you are to other people and how you're loyal. But that showed disloyalty right there. Personally, and this is just me, there is no way that I would still be friends with somebody who is making up troll accounts to harass people in our friend group. That's just weird. If they could do that to Jen and Lisa, then what would they do to you if you guys should fall out? That's not crazy behavior to you? Why do you want to be around that? It's times like this where I see that Heather doesn't really have anybody's back. She's always blowing with the wind, and she's not as loyal or as nice as she wants to make herself out to be. Heather can sit here and try to act like she's this sweet, naive Mormon girl from Utah and she doesn't know that much and, you know, I'm just so sweet and nice, but it's all an act. She does not fool me in the least. She is just as petty and vindictive and as disingenuous as the rest of these ladies are. So nothing gets resolved outside. Heather goes back in to finish her auditions, and then you have Jen go inside and she's sobbing. So Heather says in her confessional that it's ridiculous at this point and how Jen is being indicted off of charges, not because she's being trolled by some fake Instagram account. In all seriousness though, it's a true reminder of you need to have your own back because people are fickle. You cannot depend on anybody 100% to have your back and do the right thing because folks will switch up on you and change up in a minute. And that's exactly what Heather's doing. So in the midst of all the drama, Lisa Barlow walks in and she is ready for her audition. Now, I was screaming because Heather was not here for it. She was like, why are you here, Lisa? So Lisa says, hi, Heather. Hi, judges. Hi, everybody. I'm here to audition and support my friend, Heather Gay. And when I tell you that Miss Lisa Barlow got those vocals ready, she was ready for her moment. Away in a manger, no crib for his head. The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. I said one thing about it. Miss Lisa Barlow swears that she is the next Mariah Carey, okay? But she finishes her audition. She is super pleased with herself. And she joins the rest of the ladies in the waiting area. And she's like, hey guys, did you all hear my audition? I think it went really, really well. Like, I did such a great job. Now, mind you, the minute that Angie Harrington sees Lisa, she all of a sudden jumps up and she's like, Whitney, do you want to go over our dance routine? And I'm thinking, you should never let anybody know that you're pressed by them. I mean, it was so evident that Angie Harrington was uncomfortable the minute Lisa Barlow stepped into the room. And of course, we now see Whitney and Angie go and do their audition. And again, it was so corny. Why are you doing a dance routine when she's having choir auditions? It was just so stupid. So now we see Jen telling Lisa all about the drama that happened earlier. She's like, Lisa, you know that Heather was out here defending Angie Harrington and not me. So at this point, Jen is so livid. She's like, I want us to all sit down after auditions are over and we all need to get to the bottom of what's going on. Then she adds that if Heather tells her to get over what Chris and Angie did to her, she's going to curse Heather clean out. So now Jen takes it a step further and she says that Heather is super materialistic and the only reason why she wants to be around Angie and her fat elf-on-a-shelf husband is because she believes that they'll put her on a yacht. Now I said, well, damn. Tell us how you really feel about Chris, Jen. I can definitely see where Jen is coming from in regards to Heather only wanting to hang around Angie and Chris because of what she can get from them. Honestly, I think that Heather probably feels like Jen can't do a whole lot for her because Jen no longer has money, status, her reputation is being tarnished, and she's about to go to jail. So I think that Heather's feeling like, I mean, girl, no offense, you're about to be on your way to the jailhouse, so I'm going to stick to Angie and Chris. So the auditions are finally over, and I was thinking, how long were these auditions? Because like I said, a total of 6 people showed up, so it couldn't have been that long. But anyhow, all the ladies are in the next room. And did anybody think it was weird when Angie Harrington started sitting on Heather's lap? I just felt like Angie sitting on Heather's lap was almost like they were trying to taunt Jen and Lisa. Like, we're great friends now, and it's F the both of you guys. Maybe I'm reaching, but it just felt like they were trying to send a message that they're super close and they don't care about anybody else in this group. So at this point, Jen is so annoyed and she addresses Heather and Angie Harrington. And you have Heather sitting there nodding her head, not saying anything. And I was thinking, Heather, what's wrong with you? So now you have Angie Harrington giving the weakest apology, and all she can say is, look, I am just so sorry. So at this point, Lisa is about to get up and leave because she's pissed. She's like, your husband made a fake account trying to troll me. Where's my apology? And I said, now, Lisa, while you do have a point, where's Meredith's apology for what you said about her in that bathroom last season? So now you have Angie Harrington saying that Lisa bullies everybody. And Lisa says, how do I bully anybody? And by the way, I only have one Instagram account. So you have Angie trying to deflect, and she's like, but look at all the drama that you created by posting up Heather's dad's obituary on Twitter. So now Lisa says, look, that's different, okay? I was defending myself and I was clearing my name. She used her dad's passing to lie on me, and again, I was clearing my name. I said, now, Angie, why'd you have to go and bring that up? Because now you have Lisa and Heather going at it. So now Heather jumps in talking about Lisa. That's why you have no friends in this group. So now Lisa says, girl, what are you talking about? Who's not my friend here? So child, you have Heather and Angie raise their hands, and the whole thing gave me very much second grade. I said, how old are y'all? 8? At y'all's big ages talking about raise your hand if you're so-and-so's friend or not. So we end the scene with Lisa acknowledging that she was wrong for posting up Heather's dad's obituary, but at the same time, she was defending herself and clearing her name. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm getting real tired of this Heather and Lisa drama. Like, I am so over it. We have been talking about the same thing now for about 4 episodes. Y'all are either going to move past this and get over it, or just remain enemies and leave each other alone. But this same conversation, episode after episode after episode, is really draining. And no offense, Heather, these auditions were a big flop because about 2 people showed up and it was a whole bunch of arguing. Now, these next 2 scenes, we can just breeze past it. Not a whole lot happened with Meredith and Seth in the bathtub talking about all the drama. That wasn't that interesting to me. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, yeah, I mean, we can hit fast forward on this. And then when we see Heather going to the new beauty lab site, again, not a whole lot happened, so we can just move right on along. So now we jump to the next scene with Lisa and John having a cute date night. And it was cute because John had just bought Lisa this $7,000 diamond bangle and it looked really good.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
I said, again, Lisa, let me know if John has a brother. So anyhow, Lisa's discussing her family issues. Remember a few episodes back, we learned that all of her sisters are divorced, and I think one of her younger sisters is going through a divorce now. So she goes on to say that while she loves her family, loves her sisters, it just seems like they're always dumping their trauma on her, and it's a lot to take in. So you have John giving her advice, and he's like, babe, I know you love them and you want to help and listen to them, but you can't take their problems on because when you do that, it affects us. And then he goes on to say that Lisa needs to learn how to put some distance between her and her sisters and not take everything on. And that's very sound advice because you can love people, but you still have to make sure to put yourself first and your peace first. And you cannot be a dumping ground for someone else's issues. Yes, it's nice to help and be a listening ear, but at some point you have to say, look, I love you, but I can't hear this every single day. And maybe you need to talk to somebody, talk to a counselor or a therapist, a minister, a bishop, somebody, but you can't just dump all your issues on me because that's not fair to anybody. So they change gears in conversation, and now Lisa brings up how she's been feeling kind of lost and a bit disconnected from God. So she says that she's trying to get back to that happiness and that peace because she's lost it. Now, I screamed and got my entire life when Lisa went in her confessional and said, I am very important to God. And I said, girl, I know that's right. I saw a lot of people clowning Lisa for saying that, but I'm thinking, that's not bad of her to say that. I think the same thing. Like, I'm the apple of God's eye. He loves me. Like, I'm one of his children. Of course, I should feel that way. So I didn't see anything bad or anything wrong with her saying that. You know how Black Christians say favor ain't fair? I guess that was Lisa's way of saying it. But I hope that Lisa is able to find that connection again and also keep her relatives and their problems at a distance and say, I love you, but again, I cannot listen to your problems 24/7, okay? So now we jump to this next scene with Jen and Coach Shah, and when I tell you that Coach Shah was not here for the BS whatsoever, Jen reveals that Chris Harrington is the one behind that fake Instagram account. And the way Coach Shah went off, I said, I know that is right. So Coach is going off. He's like, it upsets me more than you'll ever know to learn that a grown man would sit up here and make a fake account. Like, who does that? So now Coach goes on to say that people will never understand what Jen is going through mentally. He goes on to say that the online bullying is so bad sometimes that he will come home to see Jen crying in the corner in the fetal position. And you know that you've messed up when you have Coach Shah, who's generally very calm and even-keeled. When you have him yelling and cursing, I said a hot mess. I said if I were Chris Harrington, I would steer clear of Coach Shah in public. So now Jen brings up the auditions and how Heather pretty much told Jen to forgive Chris and Angie and just move on and let it go. But she was also confused because the next day, she received a bouquet of flowers from Heather. So it was pretty much like Heather was trying to take the coward's way out. Like, let me send you some flowers to apologize, even though I left you to fend for yourself the other day. So we end this scene with Coach Shah pretty much telling Jen that it might be time for her to cut Heather loose as a friend. And I agree. Like I said earlier on in this recap, Heather blows with the damn wind. She's your friend on this day, and then she's your enemy's friend on the next day. And me personally, I don't play like that. You can't sit there and straddle the fence. Pick a side. And if it's not my side, then we can be done with this friendship. So now we jump to the next scene with Lisa and Whitney. And Whitney says that if you told her a year ago that she and Lisa would actually be friends, she would not have believed you. Now, personally, this is not a true friendship. This is a friendship based on convenience. Whitney's on the outs with Heather, and Lisa's on the outs with Meredith. So in order to have somebody to film with and have an ally, they have now joined forces. But believe you me, if Lisa and Meredith were still good friends and Heather and Whitney were still tight, they would not be talking. And Whitney, stop talking so tough about, well, if you had told me that I'd be friends with Lisa, I would have never believed you, because you were sweating her all last season. You were dying to hang out with her. So again, just stop. But anyhow, they're talking about what's going on in their lives. Whitney brings up how things are tough because Justin's been fired and now she's the sole provider and there's a lot of pressure. Now, child, I can only imagine what it's looking like in that household. Because if Justin was the chief sales officer, he was third or fourth in command, then I'm sure he was seeing a few $1 million. And to go from 7 figures to now, depending on your wife's 6-figure salary, that's a big decline. So I just said, I hope that Justin is sending out his resumes and hitting up LinkedIn and Indeed, because a hot mess. And y'all really better be worried because, like I mentioned earlier on, the ratings for SLC have been declining each week. Baby, you better hope that there is a season 4. Imagine Justin being unemployed and now this show is gone. That will really be a hot mess. So now Lisa brings up how her sister is going through a divorce and she's trying not to carry the weight of her sister's problems. So now you have Whitney interjecting, saying, oh, I know, the same way I try not to carry the weight of my childhood. And it's like, Whitney, can you stop making everything about yourself all the time? It's like you can't help yourself. Every chance you get, you're always bringing your childhood up. It's annoying. Heather told you right in episode 3 that you are very self-centered. You could be talking about the weather, a TV show, what you ate last night for dinner, and Whitney's gonna find a way to bring up her childhood some way, somehow. So Lisa continues on by saying that she just feels like she's absorbing so much drama and so much negativity. And of course, she brings up the mess between her and Heather. So she goes on to say that Heather used something so sensitive to disparage her name and make her look bad. So she continues on by adding that had Heather not lied on her, then she wouldn't have exposed her on Twitter. Then she goes on to say that it was really immature of Heather to say, raise your hands if you're friends with Lisa the other day at her auditions. So she says that Heather has zero accountability for the things that she says and does. So here goes Whitney chomping at the bit, ready to throw her cousin slash best friend under the bus. And she's like, you know what, Lisa? You and I have a lot more in common than you think. So Whitney says that while she loves Heather and Heather is her best friend, her situation with Heather has been very difficult to navigate. And I'm thinking, now Whitney, let's back up for just a minute. The situation between you and Heather is your fault. Whitney's logic makes absolutely no sense, and I'm going to need her to stop and get some help and own up to what she's done. For her to act like Heather did something to her is unbelievable. So here goes Whitney talking about she hopes that they can work through their drama, but she's scared that she's lost Heather forever. And then we have Whitney droning on and on about how she's tired of being a people pleaser and she is no longer getting along to go along. So then she says, and you know what really sucks? Heather hasn't even reached out to me about Justin losing his job. So I was thinking, I mean, Whitney, how hard is it for you to pick up the phone and call her and tell Heather what's going on in your life? I was just so over it. Like, Whitney, shut up. And Whitney, don't get too excited about your newfound friendship with Lisa Barlow because you guys will be back on the outs soon enough. So we get to the final scene of this episode, and it's Whitney over at Heather's house, and they are going to attempt to hash things out so that they can be back on one accord. So Whitney says, look, I'm not here to fight with you. I love you. You're one of my best friends. But I do have to say that when I was driving over to your house, I kept saying to myself, why does it feel like I'm chasing Heather? So Heather is already annoyed and she's like, what are you talking about chasing me down? Now, honestly, you could already see that things were about to go left because Whitney starting it off with these little jabs. I said, okay, girl, you clearly do not want to make things right and be back to being friends with Heather. So Whitney launches into the Phoenix trip and how ever since Arizona, so many things have happened. Then she goes right back into her childhood trauma. I said, oh my gosh, if she brings up childhood trauma one more time, I'm going to scream. So Heather interrupts her and she's like, look, Whitney, I'm trying to be here for you the best way I can be. I know I did a lot of things wrong in Arizona, but again, I do want to be here for you. Now, Heather, while I've been getting on you in this review, I do have to say that in this case with you and Whitney, you haven't done anything wrong. You were not wrong to tell her, sis, shut your mouth, be quiet, and stop making this trip about you when it's supposed to be about Jen. You were not wrong for that. Whitney was doing the absolute most when you guys were in Arizona. So I would not have apologized for that. I would have said, yeah, girl, I told you to shut up and stop. So now Whitney brings up Justin's termination and Heather's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I had no idea. Whitney ignores that and she's like, and yeah, you didn't even call me to check on me and see if we're all right. So one thing about it, do not ever try to play me like you told me some information that you never told me. I have a damn near photographic memory, so if you try to lie to me and tell me that you told me some information that I know you didn't tell me, we're gonna have an issue. And that actually happened to me recently with a friend who tried it. She pulled a shady stunt, I called her out on it, and she tried to lie and deflect and say, well, no, because I told you that XYZ was happening in my life. And I said, wait, hold on. What we won't do is lie because you never told me that. And it was her way of trying to get out of apologizing to me. And with me, I am somebody who cuts folks off quick. If I sense any craziness, any jealousy, if I feel like you're trying to lie or whatever, no, I'm quick to cut it off.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
And the friendship almost ended because of that. Because how dare you do something awful to me and then I call you out about it, and instead of you owning up to it and saying, you know what, Brooke, I was wrong, I'm sorry, can we move on from this? you proceed to lie and tell me that you told me something that you and I both know you never told me. So yeah, I was a bit triggered during this scene. Like, Whitney, how dare you? How could she call you up about Justin being fired when she had no idea? So at this point, Heather is so pissed. She's like, so when I saw you at the auditions a few weeks ago, I thought that you were happy to support me. And now all of a sudden I'm finding out that you have all this pain and resentment towards me. And it's like, I'm the asshole who ignored you for 2 weeks. Like, got it. So here goes Whitney trying to deflect yet again. And she's like, see, Heather, that's why I don't like coming to you about things, because you always shut down. So now Heather brings up Lisa and all that drama. She's pissed that Whitney seems to be taking Lisa's side and not hers. So you have Whitney saying that she understands why Lisa did what she did and how she feels like she's between a rock and a hard place when it comes to Lisa and Heather. So to add insult to injury, Whitney adds that Lisa had every right to defend herself. So Heather is livid. She's like, I'm glad that you can defend her and how she hurt me. Like, great. Now I said, Heather, I understand why you're angry, but let's not forget how you did Jen in regards to Angie Harrington and Chris Harrington and that fake account. You sat up there and sided with them over Jen. So I said, girl, I have to call a spade a spade. The same way that you want Whitney to be loyal to you, then you also have to be loyal to other people. You can't really have it both ways. Now at this point, the conversation has gotten so heated between Whitney and Heather. Baby, you see Heather walk to her room, she slams the door, then she opens the door back up and she pushes Whitney. She's like, girl, get out my house. Like, I'm over it. Conversation is over. Like, I'm done. Now I noticed that was the second time that Heather pushed Whitney, because we saw her slam her into the wall when they were in Phoenix. And now for her to push her out her house, I said, okay, girl, we're going to see why you get that black eye later on in this season. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm really getting tired of this whole Whitney versus Heather storyline. And it just feels like we're having the same conversation again and again and again, and I'm tired. So now we open up episode 8 with Lisa at home with her family. And she is letting the boys know that she wants to get back to reading the scriptures and doing Bible study once a week. So she goes on to say in her confessional that she's a bit upset with herself because she has not been the best example to her sons, and she can admit that, but now she wants to course correct. And Lisa goes on to add that it's important for the boys to see her going to church every Sunday, or at least most Sundays out the month. And then you have John saying that you can also meditate as a way of prayer and connecting to God. And so he points out that Jack is meditating. And it was so cute because their youngest son, Henry, called Jack out. He was like, he is not meditating. He's sitting there thinking about girls. So we jump to the next scene and we see a very unlikely trio hanging out together. And that's Jen, Lisa, and Whitney. They are hitting the slopes to do some skiing. And Whitney says that she's trying to get Jen and Lisa to be better at skiing because since they live in Utah, Utah is home to the best ski slopes in the world. So, child, they get on the hill. And personally, I would be like, Whitney, I'm gonna be on the bunny hill. You're not gonna force me to be with the advanced skiers. So anyhow, they're all done skiing. And now Whitney's like, I haven't seen you guys since Heather's auditions. So Lisa says, well, I made it into the choir. What about you guys? And we learned that Whitney also made it into the choir. If Heather is really serious about putting a choir together, then why would she have Whitney join the choir when Whitney can't sing? That's how you know that some of this stuff is done for the show and to have a storyline, because that makes no sense. One thing about it, we don't play when it comes to a choir. And if you don't know how to sing, then you better know how to play the tambourine, the drums, the piano, something. So Whitney says, I'm just surprised because the last time I saw Heather, she escorted me out of her house. She literally grabbed me and pushed me out the door. So Whitney goes on to say that Heather is mad at her because she challenged her when she saw her at her house, and she stuck up for Lisa. So as Lisa and Jen are listening to Whitney, Jen says that she's really surprised to hear this because it sounds completely out of Heather's character. Then she adds that she does think that it's strange that Whitney would defend Lisa. So now Lisa jumps in to give her 2 cents, and she says, honestly, Heather's life right now is pretty much like a house of cards built on lies, and she's mad at us because we're calling her out on it. So of course, Jen brings up her issues with Heather, and she says, I'm just so confused by this whole thing because when I spoke to Heather one-on-one about what Angie and Chris did to me, she was on my side. Then when we see each other at auditions and I brought it up, she completely just sat there and was silent. And like I keep saying, the reason why Heather is silent in group settings because she is afraid of people disliking her. She says one thing to this person and another thing to somebody else. She's really unable to have anybody's back 100%. So of course, Whitney interjects to bring the conversation back to herself yet again because I swear that is one self-centered woman. So she goes on to say that she feels like she's always chasing Heather down and she's tired of it. And then she goes on this long tangent about how she's a naturally messy person, but she's trying to change and not be that person anymore. And I was thinking, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. And Whitney, you love being a pot stirrer. You love instigating and you love making a situation worse than what it is. You love the drama. You are the drama. Let's be real. So now we move on to the next scene, and I was a bit surprised to see that the husbands were having a whole scene by themselves. We see Coach Shah at home, and he is hosting a barbecue for all of the husbands. And I have to say that during this scene, my mouth was watering, okay? That food looked so good. He had barbecue chicken drumsticks and mac and cheese and rice. Like, it looked amazing. Okay, like my mouth is watering as we speak. So all the husbands show up. Seth arrives, John arrives, Justin, Dana's husband arrives, and I think another husband arrived, but the gang is all there. And one thing about it, I love Seth and Coach Shah's friendship. I like Seth a lot too. He seems really cool and he's very handsome too. But while they're all enjoying that delicious barbecue, you can feel the tension in the room. Justin even points it out that it's real tense between John and Seth. And Coach Shah could feel the tension between Seth and John too. And at this point, Seth and John go outside to try and resolve this. Now, John, while I like you and all, you had me entirely messed up during this conversation. I did not like the deflection that went on. I didn't like how you couldn't own up to what Lisa did. So Seth brings up how John did not say hi to Meredith when they were all together at Coach Shah's birthday party. And John's like, no, I wasn't trying to avoid her. I was just in my own zone. So now Seth says, look, John, it's real awkward for me because I've never been in this position where a friend's wife was bashing me. So he's like, how would you feel if my wife were sitting up there calling your wife a garbage trash whore? So instead of John saying, you know what, Seth, you're right, he's sitting up there talking about, well, Seth, Meredith isn't innocent either because Lisa told me that when they were in Arizona, she was saying that Lisa cheated on me and that's not cool either. Now I said, John, you have your wife sitting up here listening to a whole bunch of lies from Whitney because that's not what happened. Meredith did not say anything of the sort. That was Whitney who repeated that rumor from Angie Harrington. So you tried it. And I didn't like when you kept saying, so nobody can act like they're innocent. That's not right. Your wife owes Seth and Meredith an apology, and you know it. I am praying that they check Whitney at this reunion, because Whitney is just out here running her mouth and causing a whole lot of chaos for no reason. So then John brings up that Lisa actually did try to reach out to Meredith a handful of times, but Meredith kept blowing her off. Now, John, let's be real for a minute. When somebody has hurt you deeply, you need time to process that. So you cannot be upset if Meredith was not so quick to listen to what your wife had to say. That's normal to say, you know what, I need some time. Don't call me, I'll call you and let you know when I'm ready to talk. So obviously it's clear that they're not going to see eye to eye on this issue. So John says, look, Seth, I value our friendship and I do want to put this behind us. Seth says, I agree, but it's just so hard. So now they shake on it and things aren't great, but it's better than what it was. So at this point, it ends up being a therapy session for all the husbands, because Seth starts asking Coach Shah how he's doing. Coach says that it's hard and it's painful and he cries a lot, but at the same time, he believes that God makes no mistakes. So then Justin shares that he was fired from his job, and he's like, life is unpredictable. You never know what can be thrown your way, but it's all on how you react to it. You can tell that they all felt relieved, talking about their problems and what they're going through. But prayers up to Coach Shah and for Jen and Coach Shah's boys, because that's a lot. And the saddest thing about this is the fact that Jen did not have to scam. This could have been easily avoided. So we jump to the next scene with Meredith at home, and she has her niece and nephew over along with her older sister Myra. So Meredith says that her and her sister had a lot of ups and downs during the past year with the passing of their father, but they're in a great place now. So anyhow, Myra and Meredith are talking about their upcoming charity fashion show, and Myra says that she's really excited to do this with her sister. So Myra goes on to say that this charity fashion show is about to be a celebration of life for her son Alex, because he's been dealing with a lot regarding his mental health. Now, we all remember Meredith talking about her nephew who was struggling with his mental health last season, and it really upset her. So we learned from Meredith that her nephew Alex has been on a very long journey regarding his mental health. He's been in and out of multiple mental health and drug addiction facilities. I was really sad for Meredith when she was talking about last winter got so bad that her nephew drank an entire bottle of bleach. When Meredith revealed that, I was in shock. I felt so bad, but I do have to say that I'm so happy to see that her nephew is doing well and that he's alive, because I didn't think that you could drink a whole bottle of bleach and still survive. So the fact that he's still here, that is a blessing. So now they start discussing the guest list and who they should invite to this charity fashion show, because they're not trying to have any drama. It's supposed to be a happy celebration in honor of Myra's son, who's Meredith's nephew. So Myra brings up all the drama that Meredith has been having with this group of women. And she's like, look, sis, these women have not been good to you whatsoever. So Meredith agrees with that, and she says that it has been so much drama in this group. So she brings up all the drama that went down in Arizona and how Whitney pretty much lied on her, saying that she said all this stuff about Lisa. And then she brings up John confronting Seth the other day about her allegedly saying all this stuff about Lisa when it's not true at all. So pretty much Meredith is over all the BS, and even she's kind of skeptical about who she should invite to this event. Now, we already know that most likely everybody is going to get an invite to this charity fashion show. So all these dramatics, I mean, I get it, but I can bet money that everybody will be invited. So now we move on to two parallel scenes with Heather showing up to her first ever rehearsal. Child, we see Heather warming up. She actually hit some high notes. I said, well, okay. Heather was not lying when she said that she could actually sing. But Heather says that she's excited for her first rehearsal. She hopes it goes well. And ultimately, she wants this choir to be a safe space for people, along with a spiritual space as well. So now we cut to Angie K picking up Jen Shah, and they're on their way to rehearsals as well. Now, mind you, why is Jen attending when Jen can't sing? Like, some stuff is just so clearly for the show because this makes no sense. In real life, Jen would not be attending rehearsal when she's not in the choir. But anyhow, they're on their way, and the conversation gets brought back to all the drama, and Jen being annoyed at Heather for not defending her. So Jen says, ultimately, it's not about choosing sides, it's about sticking up for what's right and saying what's wrong. Then she says that if the shoe were on the other foot, she would have defended Heather and cursed Angie and Chris out. Now, Jen, while I don't see it for you most of the time, when you're right, because I agree. If I'm your friend and somebody's lying on you, doing something crazy, I have your back. So now we have Angie K spilling some tea, and she's like, well, you know, Meredith invited me out to a spin class the other day, and she was with Dana. So she goes on to say that Dana was talking all this mess about Jen Shah, and how Jen Shah is pretty much bullying Angie Harrington. So you already know that Jen goes from 0 to 100, and she's like, wait, what? In what world am I bullying Angie Harrington? Does Dana not know what Angie did to me? Like, what is she saying? Honestly, Dana and Angie K are both giving me very desperate vibes. They want to be on this show so badly. I think that Dana is just pulling things out of her ass because she wants to find a way to get on this show. So what better way to do that than to start some mess and say that Jen Shah is bullying somebody who clearly harmed her. So we cut right back to Heather at the rehearsal, and everybody starts arriving. We have Whitney and Angie Harrington show up. So we have some of the contestants who tried out, they arrive, and then we see Angie K, Jen, and Lisa Barlow arrive. So now Heather's friend Corey, who's the choir director, gets up, and he's like, okay guys, it's time for us to start doing some warm-ups. And as they all start singing, Lisa and Heather go off to the side to try and hash out their issues. I'm thinking, this is not the time or the place. Why don't y'all go out for lunch and discuss this there? Heather, this is your first rehearsal. It looks real bad that you're going off to the side to argue with Lisa about the same old issues. So you have Heather saying, look, this is bigger than us. And then Lisa says, Heather, I'm just trying to work on our friendship. So Heather says, look, Lisa, I'm not trying to be in a space filled with contention and anger with you. I want us to be good. But I do have to say, why on earth would you post my dad's obituary on Twitter knowing that me and you are trying to repair our friendship? So Lisa says, but Heather, you have to see it from my vantage point because my character was being denigrated because you were lying on me. So I had to clear my name and I have every right to defend myself. Honestly, Heather, I was questioning myself, like, am I a shitty person? And then, of course, you have Heather being all smug, and she's like, yes, like, you are. Now, mind you, they're really going at it, and you have the choir doing the vocal warm-ups, and they're all staring at them fighting. And I was also screaming because the singing got louder as they started getting louder. Honestly, Lisa and Heather did not get anywhere in this conversation. You have Lisa asking Heather if Heather even likes her. Heather's not really answering the question. And Lisa's like, look, Heather, I want us to be in a good space, but your actions are showing me that you don't really see it for me. So Heather says, look, Lisa, I've never wanted anything more than to be friends with you and to be good with you, but you've created this awful space between us. Then Heather says that if Lisa's willing to start at ground zero, then maybe they can be friends. So now Lisa cuts in and says, but Heather, you lied on me. Now, let me just add my 2 cents on this whole situation. Let this be the last time they argue about this because, like I said, I'm tired. Second of all, was Lisa petty, a bit out of line, to post Heather's dad's obituary on Twitter to prove her point? Yes. Lisa could have gone about this a different way. But I do understand why she did it. She was trying to prove that she wasn't a liar. Heather, you have to understand that you are dealing with a woman who is not going to say, Heather, I was wrong. You guys are not going to see eye to eye on this. And it's up to you to say, we're either going to move past this and be friends or friendly or cordial, or I'm going to hold this grudge and Lisa can kick rocks. But it's getting a bit childish where every time you guys see each other, it's the same old argument. So while Lisa and Heather are going at it, we see Jen and Angie Harrington go off to the side to talk and resolve their issues. Angie says, look, Jen, you were a casualty in all this, and me and Chris are so sorry. So Jen says, well, I can accept that. Thank you for saying that. But when it comes to my husband, Coach Shah, he's really pissed about this. And the only way for you and Chris to make it right is if you give us a public apology on Instagram. The same way you want to embarrass us in public, we also want a public apology. And I said, I know that's right. But Angie says that's fine and that she'll see to it that Chris does give her and Coach Shah a public apology. Now, does anybody know if Chris actually did this? I'm curious to find out. But I was glad to see Angie own up to it and not try to lie. So of course, we flip right back over to Lisa and Heather still fighting, and Lisa brings up the Arizona trip. When we were in Arizona, there were a lot of lies going on about me and my family, and I don't appreciate that. So Heather agrees that the rumors about Lisa were outrageous and crazy, and that she had no parts in that. So Lisa pretty much says, well, that's not what Whitney's been saying. Whitney has been insisting that you, along with Meredith, had a lot to say about me and my marriage. So at this point, Heather is really annoyed, and she's like, well, that's not true at all, and why would Whitney lie on me like that? So Lisa's not believing what Heather's saying about not knowing any of these rumors, and she's like, well, Whitney is standing right there, so let's call her over. So Whitney walks over, and of course, all hell breaks loose. So you have Lisa telling Whitney that Heather is denying all of this, and she says, Heather might deny it, but I choose to believe Whitney. So Heather says, Whitney, you recanted what you were saying. So Whitney says, no, I didn't recant anything. I think it's very convenient that you can't remember these rumors that we both heard. So now you have Whitney and Lisa calling Heather out on her alleged memory loss. And Whitney says, I just think it's interesting, Heather, because when you called me up to tell me that I got into the choir, you even told me that you don't remember why we even got into the argument last week. So Heather says, well, I only said that because what you were saying to me didn't land. Like, I didn't think that it was sincere or real at all, so that's why I said that. So obviously, nothing is about to get resolved between Heather and Lisa and Heather and Whitney, and then you have Whitney saying that it's her first time not going along to get along, and she's tired of this awkward space between her and Heather. So at this point, Heather is just so irritated, she walks away, and she's like, I'm not doing this. Now, Heather, like I said earlier, I would not have gotten into this conversation with either one of them at my own rehearsal. That's not happening. If you want to argue with me, let's go out for lunch or dinner, but I'm not doing this here. So Whitney says that she's tired of Heather walking away and dismissing her, and she's starting to feel like it's F Heather. I said, Y'all, at this point, I'm just over this whole Heather and Whitney beef. Like, I really am. It just feels so stupid. And I'm tired of hearing Whitney whine. I really am. And one of y'all had me screaming because you said every time you see Whitney, you scream out little girl the way Mary did last season. So we end the episode with Jen and Angie K hanging out. They were at one of those rooftop pools and they're calling all the ladies up to invite them on a girls' trip to San Diego. Jen had me laughing so hard when she said, I am so sick and tired of all these healing trips. No more healing. We're tired of all that. It's time for some fun. And I said, thank God, because I think that we are all tired of all these healing trips. 99.9% of the time, it has never been any healing whatsoever. It's been a whole lot of mess with Whitney stirring the pot and causing a whole bunch of chaos and confusion for no reason. So Angie K and Jen decide to call Meredith first to invite her on the trip. So mind you, Meredith is at home and she's with Dana. We learned that Dana and Meredith have become fast friends and they like each other a whole lot. So Angie K and Jen invite Meredith to the girls' trip. Meredith is excited and she's like, oh, by the way, Dan is here too. So of course, Jen and Angie K give Dana a very chilly reception. And now Meredith stupidly asks the both of them who's all invited on this trip. So they name everybody except for Dana. I said the shade of it all. But Dana, you're a true fool to talk mess about Jen Shah in front of Angie K. Why would you do that? You already know that Angie K has loyalty to Jen. She threw Jen's husband a birthday party, so I mean, you were really dumb for that. So you can't be too surprised about not getting an invite to San Diego. So Jen is really petty and she's like, I would have invited you too, Dana, but I heard you were sitting up there running your mouth about me, calling me a bully. So Dana says, all I said was, I don't like the way you talk to people. Now, Jen, Dana does have a point because I've said this in previous recaps. The way you speak to people is absolutely disgusting. These temper tantrums at your big age have got to stop. You start screaming and yelling. I can't stand when you do that. So Dana does have a point. So Jen and Angie hang up the phone on Dana and Meredith. Jen screaming, talking about bye Dana, and honey, she gets out the pool and storms off, and she's crying, talking about she's not gonna sit up here and have somebody call her a bully. And that's where the episode ends. SLC, I'm trying to hang in there, but these last 2 episodes wore me thin. I'm going to need some more material, and you guys need to step it up. Let me know what you guys think. Is anybody else tired of the same old argument between Lisa and Heather and Whitney? Because I know that I am. But y'all, I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching, and you guys already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.